Hi, and welcome to another episode of the CLEO Edge Podcast. My name is JC Polanco, and I'm the President and CEO of the Counsel on Legal Education Opportunity. Today, we're with you all the way from Goulston and Stores in Washington, D.C., as we celebrate our first annual Spring Bloom on our kickoff for our Emerald Anniversary. As you all know, this is an important year for us. We're celebrating 55 years of working to make the legal profession more diverse. And this event is so important. We're so thankful for all of the folks that are here with us today, specifically Goulston and Stores for sponsoring our event, Booz Allen Hamilton for being our title sponsor. Thank you so much for supporting all the work we do. And Baker Botts, we really are thankful for the work you do for us and for our students. We owe you a debt of gratitude for putting today's festivities together. So thank you so much. And for those of you that are watching, please go to our website at cleoinc.org and take a look at some of the incredible events that we have lined up. On July 7th at New York Yankee Stadium, we have the CLEO Slam, where the Yankees will be facing the Chicago Cubs on that Friday night. We hope to see you there. Please look at our website, consider joining us for that fantastic event. And of course, we have a very special guest with us tonight. His name is Rob Falk. Now, Rob Falk is a very important figure for us because Rob Falk not only is a powerhouse attorney, but Rob Falk is the general counsel of the Truth Initiative, has spent so many years being a change agent and focusing on issues of civil rights that matter to all of us. But more importantly for Rob, he is one dedicated member of the board for us here at the Counsel on Legal Education Opportunity. We are so grateful to have Rob Falk. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here. This is going to be fun.
It is. Can we tell you, we've been so excited. I know the team here at CLEO has been excited about having you on. I know Curlew, our producer, is also excited because I got to tell him about your background. It's so exciting to read about and to know you. So having you here is important. A lot of the folks that are watching tonight are diversity pioneers, future attorneys, law students, and they have benefited a great deal from the hard work that you've done in the civil rights front and for us here at CLEO. So thank you for that, Rob. Rob, I wanted to know, tell us what got you involved in the law? What made you want to become an attorney?
Well, I swore I would never be an attorney, and got to be careful about that. When I was an undergrad, I thought I was going to be a clinical psychologist. I got really into the idea of being a clinician. I was going to go to grad school. And then when I started doing some independent work, I started researching the role of the involuntary commitment process for people with mental illness and why particularly people with MDs or clinical degrees had the ability to take away their civil rights by involuntary commitment. I was like, this would be really interesting. I want to get into policy and mental health. And finally, I figured out the way to do it was through law school.
That's so interesting. Now, you saw the law as an avenue to change, and that's interesting. Tell us about your undergrad experience. Where did you go?
Undergrad at Princeton. I was a major in psychology, minor in the history of science. So a little geeky all around.
Yeah. Once you said Princeton, I said geeky all around.
I'm a geek and proud. I can live with that.
But so you go to Princeton. That must have been interesting being there. And where are you from originally?
I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina. When I was growing up, the state ad campaign was "Lord, it's like living in a home." I like calling North Carolina home. Even as a young child, I knew that was wrong. So I moved along.
That is interesting. So here you are, a kid from North Carolina, and you say, "I'm going to go to Jersey." You go to Princeton. And when you go to Princeton, there is where you discover your passion for this mental health and how to change the world through mental health.
Well, I just thought, a lot about the relationship between people who have mental illness and how they interact with the legal system, the fact that definitions of things matter. One of my papers, which really changed the way I thought about things, was about autism and how once there was an official diagnosis of autism, how that brought resources to people who had developmental issues. And I thought, words matter, the law matters, and there are a lot of different ways to affect policy. So that's what sort of intrigued me there.
That's so interesting. So when, and I'm sorry to do this because I really want to hear about law school and how that was for you, but you must be listening to a lot of the conversations happening today around mental health and the law. And it must be really concerning for you, no?
Yeah, I mean, what what even happened in the 60s was there's a philosophy of deinstitutionalization that mental hospitals were places of incarceration really without treatment. And so there was a vast movement to get people out of mental hospitals. But there really wasn't ever any community support put behind people going into the community. And what we see now here is that there's still so much mental illness, and we put fewer and fewer resources into actually helping people. And so we wait, there is this constant dialogue of mad versus bad. And we wait to do something for somebody once they've actually done something bad, where they've decompensated to the point where they're arrested. So, our prison system has become our mental health system, and it's expensive, it's ineffective, and it's inhumane. So I'm still very passionate about these issues.
I know, I hear it in your voice, and I see it every day in New York City where I'm from. One of the discussions about Kendra's law, about mandatory hospitalization for those that can't care for themselves. And it's one of those topics where a lot of people without your background of actually being in healthcare and understanding it always are at the forefront of making these decisions. And that's always must be so concerning, right?
Right. I mean, we take resources away and somehow expect people to be successful and thrive, and it just doesn't work like that.
It's so interesting. Now, one of the interesting things about your background, now, I'm from the Bronx, and I've always heard about this thing called Fulbright and Fulbright Scholars. Now, I don't mean to embarrass you. We already established, Rob, that you're geeky.
Okay. I'll own it.
I always read about it, and so have my friends. I went to SUNY Albany. We didn't have too many. I know that there may have been one or two. But tell me about this Fulbright Scholar work, because you continued being passionate about studying this issue while being there. Tell me about that.
Okay, so JC, once upon a time, there was a world without the internet. And you had to do research with things called books that were made out of dead trees.
No.
Yes. And so when I was an undergrad and looking at senior thesis topics, I wanted to do some research on what the mental health care issues were in developing countries. And even at a university like Princeton, there weren't a lot of written resources that I could use. So basically, I took this idea of a thesis topic and turned it into a proposal for a Fulbright grant in Geneva, Switzerland, where I was going to work at the World Health Organization. And so applied once, got rejected, but came so close, and I just applied again and got it. And so that was another transformative experience where I met healthcare providers and health leaders from across the world who really thought about how to re-envision community health at whatever level of development a country was. It was really transformative for me.
And that was before you even went to law school.
Yes.
Isn't that great? Your law school experience must have been fascinating, right? I know you go to Yale, and we've already established.
Yes.
So your time at Yale, being so passionate about something that a lot of us may not even think about, an attorney wanting to deal with healthcare in this fashion. How was that for you? Did you find a home there to expand on your ideas?
I did. So Yale had a very strong clinical program, and so I joined the clinical program advocating for people with mental illness. And so my first year, I spent representing individual clients in state hospitals. And then we also started a process while I was in my third year, actually second year, went on through third year, where we sued the state of Connecticut on behalf of people who with mental, what we would have sent back then, mental retardation, but now would say developmental disabilities, who were in state psychiatric hospitals with no programming for them. And so we sued the state, and probably 5 or 6 years later actually won a federal court case. I was long graduated. And ultimately those people were outplaced to appropriate services. And it was, again, a wonderful way to think about making change and getting people into the right location so they could receive treatment.
You know what's so interesting about your story and why I asked is that there are a lot of our students and a lot of our participants out there that may think of lawyers just being in a courtroom or lawyers just dealing with criminal issues. But the law is such a diverse place where there's so many different things you could do. And here you were focusing on specifically mental health and people that were dealing with those issues. And it's so interesting to hear because throughout our time here at the CLEO Edge Podcast, we've had folks in entertainment law. We have authors, we have professors, we have the Chief Justice of the Court of Appeals for U.S. Army JAG. And I just want to continue. I want the folks to listen to all the wonderful things you could do with the law degree.
Yeah, and that's really one of the things that I'm really passionate about, and one of the things that brings me to CLEO is law is very broad, and I had the fortune, I was in private practice off and on for 16 years, and in the course of my work in private practice, which was in a healthcare practice, I drafted state legislation, I drafted state constitutional amendments, I did consulting work, I did fraud and abuse litigation, I did a lot of counseling. I did some corporate reorganization. And so there are a lot of different skills that one can bring to the law. And one of the things I tell law students or people who are going to law school is you need to know who you are and what sort of work fits your intrinsic personality. There are great jobs out there that can be absolutely wrong for you. I had a law school classmate who went as a congressional staffer in a very prestigious position, and it was a really bad fit for her because she was not a really political animal. But she found ultimately the career that she thrived in and was really successful in. So, when I talk to law students or potential law students, I say, think about processes you enjoy and then figure out how that applies in law. And that's my hope for law school students, is that not everybody is meant to be a litigator. Some people are deal makers, some people are fighters, some people, I'm a nerdy crossword puzzle guy, and so regulatory law really turns me on.
Yeah.
And what I ultimately found was I love being a business lawyer for causes I care about, and that's my jam.
Yeah.
And so, nobody taught me about that in law school.
But you know what's interesting about you, that you're talking to our participants and our students, and they hear it in your voice and they see it in your actions. They don't know your role with HRC yet. They don't know how much your work on fighting against things like don't ask, don't tell.
Yes.
Matter today, Rob.
Yeah.
The fact that you are actually a change agent and you use your law degree and the law to affect change for a lot of people through your campaign. So first of all, can you tell us about your role with HRC and some of the things you worked in what I believe is the most preeminent organization dealing with civil rights issues for the LGBTQ community? Yeah,
so I was the general counsel of the Human Rights Campaign for 11 and a half years. We were fighting for the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I was not the lead policy lawyer. I was the lead business lawyer. But even then, policy, business is policy, policy is business. So fun things I got to work on, and I was able to bring different skill sets. So when I was there, one of my colleagues, a woman, was trying to get pregnant with her partner, female partner, and our insurance company for the organization said they had a medical review policy. It's like, we only provide cover services using spousal sperm. So this is a good law school test. So DC law was one that healthcare insurance providers could not discriminate on the basis of marital status, and two, could not discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation.
Okay.
So in my view, the fact that they referred to spousal sperm in a medical review policy was per se illegal. And so I could have pursued litigation on that. I had a law firm lined up that was ready to represent this woman and sue the insurance company. But I chose a channel of back-channeling through one of the insurance company's lobbyists, at the same time working with the Department of Insurance in DC, trying to force them to change. I was receiving inappropriate response from the Department of Insurance. So I had a council member write the head of the Department of Insurance in DC asking what his position was on the interpretation of law. that afternoon, I got a call from the Department of Insurance saying that they were going to contact the insurer and make sure things were covered.
Amazing.
So, it's moments like that where you think about how to make change, what the levers are, who the people are who matter. And that's one of the gifts that I've had in my career.
And that's great. And you've seen a major change in how the country views these issues of the LGBTQ community. There was a time where, I remember the poll numbers in 2000, when you asked the question about marriage equality, some places it was single digits.
Yeah.
Today, it's a night and day. And a lot of that wasn't overnight.
No, it was, HRC is the largest civil rights organization in the LGBTQ movement, but it is a movement and there are a lot of players. And there are a lot of people who push the boundaries, did the litigation, did the policy, did the public relations, and altogether, and quite honestly, there are a lot of people who have the courage to just be themselves and be out.
Yep.
And that has brought about societal change, whereas, you're right, back in 2000, the poll numbers were the vast majorities of Americans were against same-sex marriage. But now the vast majority support it. Even the majority of Republicans support same-sex marriage. So, change is possible. It's possible to make progress. But every time you push boundaries, there's retrenchment. And I think that's what we're facing now. And it's all still very relevant.
It is very relevant because it is the change that you're working on here at CLEO, that there could be push across the country on the issues of diversity. You see what's happening. You see diversity programs are under attack nationally, and it's a real problem because what we do is so essential. To try to diversify the legal profession, to try to change the world in that way matters.
Yeah, and it is really frustrating because there are so many smart, talented, incredibly scrappy students out there who either want to be lawyers or don't even know that they could be lawyers. And I'm going to be the first person to admit that I had a privileged upbringing. And so if I wanted to know what it was like to be a lawyer, I'd ask my family friends. But there's so many students out there who don't have those family friends, who don't have those connections, who don't even know how to go about. And that's the gap that CLEO fills, because they're smart, they're scrappy, they want to succeed, but somebody just has to open up the door, and that's really what I think CLEO is about.
And it's so important, and I'm so happy you said that. A lot of the students that I've come across and alumni, we have so many that are here tonight, they share their story. They said, I didn't know an attorney. I wish I wanted to be an attorney because I saw them on TV. And I know they were important, but I never knew how to think like one, how to write like one, how to read like one.
Yeah.
I had conversations to that level, and every single one of our alumni thanks CLEO, thanks the board, thanks all the work they did in those programs that you're talking about, that actually gave them the tools and the skill set so that they can succeed in law school.
And the amazing thing is, it doesn't take much, right? I mean, if you think about our summer institute, which prepares people to go to law school or gets them ready to go to law school, it's not a lot of time. But the difference in outcomes is just amazing. So, you give a little bit of investment, early on. You tell people it's possible. You make sure that they know that there are people out there that care, and they blossom, right? I mean, they can do incredible things.
And we have our alumni, Rob, as you well know, halls of Congress, judges' chambers at the state and federal level across the country. Incredible to see. And you sit with them and they're like, yeah, I came from public assistance, and I got my opportunity to CLEO. And it's because of board members like you and sponsors and people that come and believe in our cause that realize these young people want an equal opportunity, and we want to make sure they have it. So you're right about that.
Yeah, it's, investing in people is important. There's a lot of dialogue about things being fair, but giving opportunity is fundamentally fair.
Yeah.
And that's what's exciting about this work.
It is. This is a great time for us to segue into one of my favorite parts of the CLEO Edge podcast.
Which is?
The rapid fire round.
Uh-oh. I got to brace myself.
I'm excited. As you know, we ask our guests just a few questions, very short answers. just get to know a little bit about them as to what they like, what they find interesting. So Rob, let's start real quick. iPhone or Droid?
iPhone.
This is like nobody's with me on this. It's okay. That's all right. That's okay. Favorite restaurant in DC?
Ooh, Tip-Cow, Laotian.
Okay, there you go. Now I gotta ask, what is your favorite movie?
Little Shop of Horrors.
Little Shop of Horrors.
The musical.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I gotta give it to you. That's a good one. I didn't expect that. I thought you were gonna say some other legal film. All of our lawyers always come up with some legal movie.
Yeah.
It's always A Few Good Men.
Nah.
Or The Firm.
No. There's something about a singing man-eating plant that just gets me every time.
That's great. Now we know you're a runner, but I've been interested, and you do triathlons. You've coached triathlons, so I
Yeah.
got to ask you.
Okay.
What is the furthest you've ever run?
26.2 miles.
You
That's
did
enough.
the marathon. Which one?
I've done 15 or 16. I've done 2 Ironmans. So that's a race where you swim 2.4 miles, bike 112 miles, and then you get off your bike and you run a marathon.
Wow.
So it's a long day.
All right. That's I'm exhausted hearing it. As you know, my triathlon consists of grilled chicken, steak, and salmon. So.
You know what? You need a beer to go with that. That's coach's advice.
All right. So, what is your favorite vacation destination?
I like a place where you could go hiking in the mountains and somehow get culture within a day of each other. So I like being out in nature, and then I like going to museums, experiencing different cultures. My fiance and I recently went to Medellin in Colombia. I was like, this place is amazing.
That is nice. That's very nice. Favorite book?
Phantom Tollbooth.
All right.
A lot of life lessons in that one.
Okay, got to check that one out. And if you had one advice to give a young law student out there watching tonight, listening to you talk today, what's that one piece of advice you'd give them?
I would say figure out what processes you enjoy and figure out how to find a legal career that builds on those strengths.
All right, you got it. This was one of my best rapid fire. Thank you so much, Rob. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that one. I can't wait for our next one. So Rob, let's continue on. We're almost at the end of our time together. Thank you for your time. This has been very interesting, and your passion for diversity is evident in the work you do here at CLEO. Can you speak out there to someone who diversity may not matter? Someone who says, that's not in my realm of ideas or things that are important. Why should diversity matter to them?
I have so many answers to that, but one is that if you think there's one way of thinking, then you are impoverished in the way you do your work. I think having people come in with different lived experiences, different points of view, and I don't want to talk really about diversity. I want to talk about equity and inclusion, because it's only at the point where people can bring those lived experiences and those differences and you can figure it out, that you really take advantage. When I came to my current organization, I had to tell my team, I'm wrong 3 times a day. And if you don't question me, if you don't ask questions, if you don't challenge me, our work is going to be subpar. And so it took a while for them to get comfortable saying, actually, I don't think you're right on this. And I needed the diversity of perspectives from my team in order to make me better, in order for us to serve the organization better. Anytime we're going out in the world, we encounter people who may not be like us. And it's important to be building your capacity to talk across differences. That's what a lawyer is supposed to be able to do, but somehow people want to resist that. No, we actually have to be able to talk to everybody in order to get our position or our point of view to be adopted by others.
And that, you've said it so well. I hear exactly what you're saying. What I'm hearing from you is that diversity matters because it makes us better.
It makes all of us better.
Yeah.
It's not an act of pity or mercy or a giveaway. It makes me better by having conversations and other people in my life who don't have my same experience.
And and you demonstrate that. You're currently, for those of you who don't know, I mentioned a little earlier, Rob is one of our most important board members here at CLEO, but he's also the chairman of the development committee. And I know this is a role that you've taken up since 2022. Tell us a little bit about your role as a board member and your role as chair of the development committee.
Service is real. If you believe in something, then you have to serve it, and you have to step in rather than just say, yeah, that's a nice idea. And so I viewed, if I really believed in diversity, in economic opportunity, then this is an organization that I think is worthy of that investment. So I have been fortunate to be general counsel of 4 different nonprofits. I know a lot about fundraising, about development, and it's like, okay, this is worthwhile investing my time to create opportunity for other people and also to make my profession more like America. And that's really important to me.
And we appreciate the work you do there, and the work you do here for CLEO means a great deal for us. And I know the team here is happy that you're chair of the development committee, and it speaks volume to the tireless work you do. Before you go, there's something that's very important to me that I'm going to be a little selfish on.
Okay.
I grew up in the Bronx, and as you know, in the 80s and 90s, it was a tough time. And I remember seeing a lot of my neighbors being addicted to tobacco, specifically menthol cigarettes. Yeah. And a lot of my neighbors, especially the older African Americans that were there before my parents immigrated from the Dominican Republic. I remember Miss Williams on apartment 3D, where I grew up, Crescent Avenue, who would always tell me, can I go get her menthols at the bodega? And I would come, and I was an 8, 9, 10-year-old, and our producer knows Crescent Avenue well, so he can see why they would give you cigarettes. And I would always think about menthol cigarettes, and then I saw that the Truth Initiative is working very hard to stop the sale of menthol cigarettes. Could you tell us about that? And I'm sorry, I know, but it's so important to me personally. I saw so many people die of lung cancer, and I saw so many people addicted to this, and I saw you I saw some of your posts on LinkedIn, and I was gravitated towards you. Well, can you tell us a little bit about that before we wrap up? It's so important to me.
Yeah, so first of all, 2 of my grandparents died of lung cancer from smoking, so my family, and I've had personal loss related to this. Nicotine and tobacco addiction is engineered, and there's a reason why 85% or more of African American smokers smoke menthol. It's because the tobacco industry specifically targeted them with ads that made it seem like it was the black thing to do. And the result of that is we're continuously seeing Black Americans die of tobacco-related illnesses at a much higher rate for the population. And that is because menthol makes it easier to initiate smoking because it anesthetizes the throat. It makes it easier to tolerate the taste, prevents the coughing, and makes it easier to get addicted. You inhale longer, the addiction is quicker, and it's much more difficult to quit. And so we are losing so many of our African American countrymen as a result of that. And so it's really important. It's time for the anesthetic to be taken off the market so that people can quit or never start. I mean, that's really, and if you look at the tobacco industry, it has preyed upon the marginalized or the poor. They've targeted the queer community, they've targeted the African American community, they've targeted the Latin American community. And so it's not surprising that those communities are hit disproportionately hard by tobacco and nicotine addiction and related diseases.
And yet another avenue where your passion goes, and you're working at the Truth Initiative on this as general counsel. It was such an interesting conversation, Rob, because we got to learn so much about you. I know a lot of your fellow board members are going to love to watch this, and a lot of our stakeholders and students that are participating in CLEO are going to be very interested to see how your background came to be and how you became passionate about the law and all the different things you've done with your law degree, including at the very end your current role in the Truth Initiative. Speaks volumes of the person you are and the work you do.
It's been a great conversation, and thanks for inviting me. I think I behaved.
You did great. Thank you, Rob, for joining us. It's such a great interview, and thanks again. Thank you again for joining us for another exciting episode of the CLEO Edge Podcast. This was such a great conversation with board member and development chair, Rob Falk. Great conversation, and it took us on so many different avenues of all the different things you could do with a law degree. More importantly, I got to learn a lot about why diversity matters and why those of us who may not be interested in diversity or may be a little diversity averse by now could think about it a little differently. It's about equal opportunity and investing in the future of our country and diversifying the legal profession. So I want to thank Rob again for being our guest and reminding you to join us on July 7th. We have the New York Yankees CLEO Slam, where the Yankees will be facing off against the Chicago Cubs. And follow us online at our Instagram handle at CLEO Scholars, Twitter at CLEO Scholars, TikTok at CLEO Scholars, Facebook at CLEO Scholars. And don't forget to join our CLEO Connections on our website, cleoinc.org. Thanks again. I'm JC Polanco, President and CEO of CLEO. We hope to see you soon. Thank you.